Ancient builders left behind structures that defy our modern engineering. These colossal monuments whisper secrets of a lost world, one where stones were cut with laser-like precision and concrete could heal its own wounds. By the end of this journey, you will see human history in a completely new light. How did civilizations without wheels or steel move blocks heavier than a space shuttle? What forgotten knowledge allowed them to build for eternity? What does it say about us that we are still trying to catch up to their genius? High in the Peruvian Andes, the stone walls of Sacsayhuaman stand as a silent, monumental puzzle. These are not simple stacked rocks. They are a colossal jigsaw of limestone blocks, some weighing more than 100 tons, each one carved with a dizzying complexity. The stones fit together so perfectly that their joints defy the eye. It is said you cannot even slide a razor blade between them. This is a wall built without any mortar, relying entirely on the genius of its cut. The shapes are a masterclass in stonework, featuring curves, angles, and interlocking protrusions that look almost organic, as if the stones grew together. Now consider the builders. The Inca civilization did not use the wheel. They had no iron tools to carve this incredibly hard stone. So how was it done? The methods for quarrying these giants, moving them up steep mountain slopes, and then setting each one into its perfect, permanent place remain a complete mystery. Modern engineers cannot replicate the feat with the same primitive tools. This was not just construction. It was a form of high art, a lost technology that achieved the impossible, leaving behind a fortress that has withstood centuries of earthquakes, a testament to a skill we have yet to fully comprehend. Leaving behind the interlocking stones of the Andes, we travel to one of the most isolated islands on Earth. Easter Island stands alone in the vast Pacific Ocean, a speck of land famous for its silent, stone-faced sentinels. These are the Moai, the colossal statues that stare inland with an almost haunting presence. Nearly 900 of them dot the island's coastline, but their creation is only half the mystery. The real enigma lies in their journey. These giants were not born on the shore. They were carved from volcanic rock at a single inland quarry, and then they traveled. Each statue, some weighing as much as 80 tons and standing over 30 feet tall, was somehow moved miles across the island's rugged, hilly terrain. The Rapa Nui people accomplished this without wheels. They had no draft animals to pull these loads. The island's trees were sparse, making the idea of log rollers a subject of fierce debate. So how did they do it? One compelling theory suggests the statues were made to walk. Teams of rope pullers could have rocked the Moai from side to side, inching them forward in a laborious, upright shuffle. This idea seems to match some of the local oral traditions, but it is also incredibly dangerous. A single misstep could send a multi-ton monument crashing to the ground, shattering centuries of work. Other experiments have tried sleds or laying them flat on log rails, yet no single method stands out as the definitive answer. The true technique, a secret held closely by the Rapa Nui ancestors, has faded into the past. The Moai are more than just statues. They are a permanent monument to a logistical puzzle we are still trying to solve, a silent testament to a people who achieved the unimaginable with nothing but human ingenuity and sheer determination. The silent, determined journey of the Moai across Easter Island makes you wonder about the limits of human strength. But what happens when that strength is tested not in the open air, but deep within the confines of a mountain of stone? The Great Pyramid of Giza is an icon of external scale, but its true genius might be locked away inside. Within its core lies the king's chamber, a room built not from the local limestone, but from enormous blocks of red granite. These stones are monolithic, some weighing more than 50 tons, and this is where the mystery truly deepens. How did these colossal slabs get there? The pyramid's interior is a claustrophobic labyrinth of narrow, ascending corridors. These passageways are so tight that a single 50-ton block would have completely filled the space, leaving no room for workers on either side. There were no pulleys, no iron tools, and no cranes. The builders had to hoist these impossibly heavy stones up steep inclines, then maneuver them with pinpoint accuracy into the very heart of the structure, all in near total darkness. Think about the logistics of a modern construction site, with its steel girders and tower cranes. The ancient Egyptians achieved a similar feat of precision engineering, but they did it within a sealed stone tomb they were still building. The granite sarcophagus inside the chamber is itself a puzzle, carved from a single block of stone so hard that even our diamond-tipped tools would struggle to replicate its smooth, perfect corners. It is too large to have been brought in after the chamber was completed, meaning it was placed there during construction, another giant piece in an impossible internal jigsaw. This was more than just stacking bricks. It was a master plan executed with a level of foresight and capability that we are still struggling to match, a hidden marvel that challenges our very understanding of ancient potential. While the pyramids represent a mastery of immense physical scale, another ancient discovery reveals a genius for breathtaking complexity on a miniature level. At the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, a lump of corroded bronze and wood was recovered from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck. For decades, it sat in a museum, dismissed as a curious artifact. But when researchers finally looked inside, they found something that should not have existed. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, an ancient Greek device that can only be described as the world's first analog computer. It was a complex clockwork of at least 30 precisely interlocking bronze gears, all housed in a wooden case the size of a shoebox. This was not a simple calendar. By turning a hand crank, the user could predict the movement of the sun and moon, the phases of the lunar cycle, and even the timing of solar and lunar eclipses years in advance. It could model the irregular orbit of the moon, a subtlety that requires a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and mathematics. The device even tracked the cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. This was not magic, it was pure, intricate mechanical engineering. The knowledge required to design and build such a device was thought to be more than a millennium ahead of its time. Nothing of comparable complexity would appear again until the astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. So who built this technological marvel? The identity of its creator is a complete mystery, lost to history. We have no records, no blueprints, and no other examples. The methods used to cut its tiny, perfect teeth with such precision without modern tools are unknown. This single artifact shatters our timeline of technological progress. It suggests a forgotten zenith of ancient science, a school of engineering and thought so advanced that its only surviving relic spent 2,000 years hidden beneath the waves, waiting to challenge everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. The intricate gears of the Antikythera Mechanism represent a peak of ancient intellectual engineering, but another civilization perfected a material so durable it defies the ravages of time itself. Walk along the coast of modern-day Israel, and you will find the ancient harbor of Caesarea, its concrete piers and breakwaters still standing strong after 2,000 years of relentless waves and saltwater corrosion. Modern concrete, by stark contrast, begins to crumble after just a few decades in such a harsh marine environment. the Romans built for eternity, and their secret weapon was a revolutionary concrete recipe. They mixed volcanic ash, lime, and small chunks of rock, then combined it all with seawater. This last ingredient was the magical catalyst. When seawater seeps into the Roman concrete, it reacts with the volcanic ash and lime in a slow, alchemical process. This reaction forms new, interlocking crystals that actually fill any tiny cracks that develop. The material does not just resist decay. It actively heals its own wounds, growing stronger with each passing century. Modern scientists have spent years trying to replicate this self-healing property. We understand the basic ingredients, but the precise ratios, the specific mixing method, and the full complexity of the long-term chemical conversation between the concrete and the sea remain just out of reach. This is not a forgotten gadget. It is a living material, a testament to an empirical science that understood the world on a molecular level we are still striving to grasp. If we could finally unlock its formula, we could revolutionize our own world, building seawalls, bridges, and nuclear containment structures that repair themselves, standing unshaken for millennia to come. Roman concrete could heal its own cracks, but in the mountains of Lebanon, an ancient people performed a feat of pure, raw strength that seems to defy the laws of physics. At the Baalbek complex, known in Roman times as Heliopolis, lies a foundation wall that holds a secret far older than the Roman temples built upon it. This is the Trilithon, a trio of limestone blocks so absurdly massive that the mind struggles to accept their reality. Each one is estimated to weigh between 800 and 1,000 tons. To put that into perspective, a single one of these stones is heavier than two fully loaded Boeing 747 jets. They are the largest known stones ever quarried by human hands. The mystery is not just their size, but their journey. These megaliths were cut from a quarry located over a kilometer away. Then, they were somehow transported across the terrain and, most bafflingly, lifted over 20 feet into the air to be placed with perfect alignment into the foundation wall. The precision of their placement is as shocking as their mass. How do you move a small mountain? The logistical challenge is so immense that contemporary engineers admit they have no clear answer. With modern technology, we could do it, but it would require fleets of the world's most powerful cranes and custom-built transport vehicles on reinforced roads. The builders of Baalbek had none of this. They had only ropes, wood, and human labor. This has led to theories that sound like science fiction, suggesting the use of lost techniques involving acoustic levitation or a form of anti-gravity to reduce the weight of the stone. While these ideas are speculative, their very existence highlights the sheer impossibility of the task. The truth is, we simply do not know. The Trilithon stands as a permanent, overwhelming question mark, a testament to a construction secret so profound that it was lost to time, leaving us to wonder if our ancestors possessed an understanding of the physical world that we have yet to rediscover. The sheer scale of Baalbek stones suggests a civilization that mastered gravity itself. But what happens when the evidence of such a civilization lies not on land, but hidden beneath the waves? Off the southern coast of Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, divers exploring the ocean floor made a discovery that has divided the scientific community for decades. They found the Yonaguni Monument, a colossal collection of sandstone structures rising from the deep. This is not a random pile of rocks. The formations are staggering in their apparent design. You can see vast, flat terraces that drop in clean, sharp tiers like a grand staircase. There are wide, open plazas, straight walls that meet at near-perfect 90-degree angles, and even what looks like a massive archway. One prominent feature resembles a crude, monolithic face staring out from the stone. The entire complex gives the overwhelming impression of a city, a sunken acropolis now ruled by fish and coral. The controversy is intense and unresolved. Geologists point to the area's strong currents and natural sandstone fracturing, arguing that nature is a powerful sculptor capable of creating deceptive shapes. But how does nature consistently create right angles and parallel surfaces across such a massive site? If this is the work of human hands, the implications are earth-shattering. The monument sits in water that was dry land during the last ice age, meaning it would have to be over 10,000 years old. That places its construction in a prehistoric era, long before any known civilization was supposed to be capable of such large-scale precision stonework. Who were these people? What tools did they use to carve this hard sandstone underwater, or before the sea consumed their world? We have no records, no tools, and no answers. The Yonaguni monument remains one of archaeology's greatest enigmas, a ghostly silhouette on the ocean floor that either challenges our entire timeline of human history or stands as the world's most incredible natural illusion. The sunken ruins of Yonaguni challenge our timeline, but high in the Bolivian Andes, another site presents a mystery of impossible precision. Puma Punku is not a grand palace or a temple, but a sprawling field of shattered stone, a landscape of architectural anarchy. Yet within this chaos lies a level of craftsmanship so advanced it seems to defy its own ancient origins. The most famous pieces are the H-shaped blocks, carved from two of the hardest stones on Earth, andesite and granite. These are not rough-hewn monoliths. They look as if they were produced by a modern industrial machine shop. Each block possesses perfectly straight edges, razor-sharp 90-degree corners, and surfaces so flat they could be used as a reference plate for a master machinist. The stones are not simply stacked. They are a complex, interlocking system featuring intricate notches, precise T-slots, and complex grooves that would have allowed them to fit together with the accuracy of fine furniture, all without a single drop of mortar. The engineering suggests a building that could be assembled and disassembled, a modular, earthquake-resistant structure of a kind we would not see again for thousands of years. But how was this achieved? Andesite is an incredibly hard, dense stone, ranking just below diamond on the Mohs scale of hardness. To carve it with such perfection, even with our most advanced diamond-tipped power tools, would be a slow, laborious, and expensive process. The builders of Puma Punku, a culture that predates the Inca by centuries, supposedly had only stone hammers and bronze chisels. A bronze chisel would be utterly useless against andesite, shattering on contact without leaving even a scratch. So what incomprehensible method did they use? Were they employing some lost technology involving tools or techniques we can no longer conceive of? The purpose of this complex interlocking puzzle is just as mysterious. What kind of structure were they building that required such phenomenal, almost obsessive precision? Puma Punku stands as a stark, stone-cut question, a place where the very evidence left behind seems to argue against the timeline of human capability we so confidently teach. The obsessive, machine-like precision of Puma Punku suggests a civilization that treated stone like clay. But what if their true mastery was not just in what you can see, but in what you can hear? Deep beneath the island of Malta lies a silent, underground labyrinth known as the Hypogeum. This is not a cave. It is a three-level temple carved entirely from solid limestone, a subterranean world of rooms and passages that descends into the earth. And within its heart lies a room that defies silence itself. This is the Oracle Chamber, a small, oval room where sound behaves in ways that feel almost supernatural. If you speak in a certain spot, your voice does not just echo. It amplifies, vibrating through the stone and resonating throughout the entire complex with an unsettling, powerful clarity. The sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, but the true mystery is the frequency. The chamber is specifically tuned to the resonant frequency of the human voice, around 110 Hz. At this pitch, sound waves do not just travel through the air, they travel through your bones. Researchers have found that exposure to this specific frequency can have a profound effect on the human brain, altering brainwave patterns and potentially inducing states of deep meditation, heightened focus, or even a trance. Was this a deliberate design? Did the builders over 5,000 years ago understand the physics of sound waves so intimately that they could sculpt solid rock to manipulate human consciousness? They left no written records, no blueprints explaining their acoustic engineering. This creates a haunting question. Were these incredible acoustic properties a miraculous accident, a lucky byproduct of the chamber's shape and size? Or is this the evidence of a lost science, an ancient technology of sound used for ritual, healing, or communication with the divine? Modern scientists are only now beginning to map these sonic landscapes with laser microphones and frequency analyzers, discovering that the Hypogeum is not alone. Similar acoustic wonders are found in Newgrange in Ireland, in the Great Pyramid of Giza, and in ancient sites across the globe. This pattern suggests a whisper of a forgotten truth, that our ancestors may have built not just for the eye, but for the ear, constructing stone instruments of immense power whose true purpose we are only just beginning to hear. The silent, resonant chambers of the Hypogeum reveal an ancient world that sculpted sound itself. But what happens when the mystery shifts from the manipulation of energy to the creation of impossible geometry? Deep in the jungles of Costa Rica, you can find hundreds of near-perfect stone spheres scattered across the landscape. These are not small curios. Some are over 6 feet in diameter and weigh more than 15 tons. They are carved from a hard volcanic rock called gabbro, and their symmetry is absolutely astonishing. They are so perfectly round, with surfaces so incredibly smooth, that they seem to defy their own ancient handmade origins. The first mystery is their creation. How do you achieve such flawless roundness with only stone hammers and primitive chisels? The rock is coarse and incredibly tough, yet the spheres show no visible tool marks, no facets, no errors. The method used to shape them remains a complete secret, lost with the Dickwes culture that crafted them over 1,000 years ago. Some researchers suggest a long, painstaking process of heating the stone with fire, then cooling it with water to create fracture lines, followed by endless hours of pecking and grinding with even harder stones. But achieving this level of geometric perfection through such crude methods seems almost superhuman. It would require not just immense patience, but a profound, intuitive understanding of three-dimensional form. Then comes the second, greater mystery. What were they for? Were they astronomical markers arranged to point to celestial events? Were they territorial boundaries, or perhaps symbols of power and status for ancient chiefs? The truth is, we do not know. Their original placements were disturbed when they were rediscovered in the 1930s, as many were rolled away by tractor or pushed into new positions, forever obscuring their intended pattern. This means we have lost the context that might have unlocked their purpose. They stand now as silent, polished enigmas, a testament to a culture that valued perfection for a reason we can no longer decipher. In a world of rough stone and rugged jungle, they chose to make perfect spheres, and that choice alone echoes through the centuries as a question we are still trying to answer. The perfect spheres of Costa Rica represent a search for geometric purity on land, but out in the open ocean, another ancient wonder defies the very ground it stands on. Madol is a city that should not exist. Built on the fringes of a coral reef off the coast of Micronesia, this is not a city of solid ground. It is a labyrinth of about 100 artificial islands, a floating metropolis of canals and waterways often called the Venice of the Pacific. But its foundations are what truly boggle the mind. These islands were not made from simple rubble. They were constructed from colossal logs of basalt, a heavy volcanic stone. Imagine entire buildings, walls, and platforms built like log cabins, but instead of wood, the builders used 5-sided and 6-sided stone columns, each one weighing up to 50 tons. These are not small bricks, they are stone tree trunks stacked in alternating layers, crisscrossed to form a stable base amidst the relentless push and pull of the ocean tides. The first layer of this mystery is the quarry. These basalt logs were not sourced locally. They were cut from a volcanic plug on the other side of the island, miles away across dense jungle and treacherous water. How do you move a 50-ton stone column through that terrain? The second, even greater mystery is the construction itself. How did they transport these megaliths across the water and then lift them into precise, interlocking positions? They had no cranes, no pulleys, no metal tools. The prevailing theory involves a massive fleet of rafts and an immense amount of coordinated human labor, possibly using the changing tides to float the stones into position. But the sheer coordination required is staggering. This was not a small project. It was the creation of an entire ceremonial and political capital, a city built on a foundation of stone logs, requiring a society with a deep understanding of maritime engineering, complex logistics, and stonework that seems to belong to a different age. The knowledge required to achieve this feat was so specialized, so advanced for its time, that it appears to have vanished completely after Madol was abandoned, leaving behind a silent, waterlogged puzzle of a civilization that mastered the ocean itself. The floating city of Madol demonstrates a staggering command of weight and water, but another civilization sought to defy gravity in a different way, by pointing a single finger of stone directly at the sun. In the granite quarries of Aswan, Egypt, lies the skeleton of a dream. This is the unfinished obelisk still partially attached to the living bedrock. It is a monument to an ambition so vast it was literally abandoned in the face of its own impossibility. Had it been completed, this single piece of carved stone would have stretched 137 feet into the sky and weighed nearly 1,200 tons. To put that into perspective, it would have been heavier than 200 full-grown elephants. The first stage of this impossible task was the quarrying itself. Workers using nothing but balls of dolerite, a stone harder than granite, would have pounded away at the bedrock for months. They would have created a trench around the proposed obelisk, slowly and meticulously defining its shape, pounding the granite into dust with an endless, rhythmic cacophony. This alone was a Herculean feat of endurance, but then came the truly impossible parts. How do you detach this 1,200-ton needle from the earth without shattering it? There are no cracks visible in the stone that would suggest a planned break. The prevailing theory is that workers would have driven wet wooden wedges into a line of holes, and as the wood expanded, it would create enough pressure to pop the obelisk free from its cradle of stone. But with a monolith of this size, the risk of a catastrophic fracture was immense, as the visible crack that ultimately doomed this very obelisk proves. Let us assume they succeeded. The next challenge was transport. How do you move a stone heavier than a small warship from the quarry to the Nile, load it onto a barge, and sail it hundreds of miles without sinking the vessel? We have no records, no illustrations of the barges or the methods used. Finally, the grand finale, the act of erection. How do you lift this 1,200-ton needle from a horizontal position on the ground and stand it upright, perfectly vertical, without the aid of cranes or hydraulics? The Egyptians clearly knew how, as dozens of other, smaller obelisks stand as proof. but the method for a stone of this scale remains one of history's greatest engineering secrets. It likely involved an immense earthen ramp, a complex system of ropes, levers, and pulleys, and the coordinated strength of thousands of men. A single mistake, a snapped rope, a slipped lever, would have meant instant destruction. The unfinished obelisk is therefore more than a failed project. It is a frozen moment of supreme ambition, a permanent lesson in the limits of ancient technology, and a breathtaking reminder of the engineering prowess that came so agonizingly close to achieving the impossible. The ambition of the unfinished obelisk shows us the grand scale of Egyptian engineering, but to find their true technological secrets, we must look closer, much closer, at the smallest details they left behind. Deep within the Serapeum of Saqqara, a subterranean necropolis for the sacred Apis bulls, lies a collection of granite boxes that defy simple explanation. These are not rough stone coffins. They are massive, precision-made containers carved from incredibly hard stone like rose granite, with interiors so smooth and corners so perfectly square they seem machined. But the real evidence of a lost technology is found in the drill holes. In some artifacts and core samples recovered from ancient sites, we can see the unmistakable marks of tube drilling. These are not crude, jagged holes. They are clean, circular borings that preserve a perfect record of the tool that made them, and this record is baffling. The grooves spiraling inside the granite are uniform and continuous, indicating a consistent, powerful feed rate. The tool was not being pushed and pulled by hand. It was sinking into this immensely hard stone with a steady, relentless pressure that should have been impossible. Think of trying to drill into a slab of granite using a soft copper pipe and some loose sand as an abrasive. The process would be agonizingly slow, and the resulting groove would be irregular, wavering, and shallow. The ancient drill marks show none of this. They reveal a tool that was cutting through granite almost as efficiently as a modern diamond-tipped core drill. The feed rate, calculated from the groove spacing, suggests the drill was spinning with tremendous power and speed, removing stone at a rate that our reconstructions using copper and sand cannot hope to match. This points to a terrifying possibility. The ancient Egyptians may have possessed a form of machine-assisted drilling, a technology that provided both immense downward pressure and rapid, stable rotation. We have found no such machines in the archaeological record. We have no drawings or descriptions of this advanced apparatus. All we have is the stone itself, silently testifying to a process we cannot replicate with the tools we believe they had. This is not a mystery of scale, but one of precision engineering, a secret so advanced it was literally baked into the granite, waiting for a future generation to discover it and question everything we thought we knew about the workshop of the ancients. The silent testimony of ancient drill holes points to a mastery of hard stone, but this mastery required raw materials on an almost unimaginable scale. Deep within a grassy hill in Wales lies the Great Orme, a copper age mine that is a world of shadows and immense effort. This is not a simple hole in the ground. It is a sprawling, multi-level labyrinth, a subterranean city of tunnels that plunges more than 200 feet into the earth. The sheer scale of the excavation is staggering. Over the course of nearly 1,000 years, Bronze Age miners removed enough rock to bury a modern sports stadium, all in pursuit of the soft, green ore that would usher in a new age of metal. But the real mystery is not the size of the hole they left behind. It is the conditions inside that hole. Many of the tunnels are incredibly narrow, sometimes less than 2 feet wide. These were not passages for grown men. They were workspaces for children, their small bodies the only tools that could fit into the deepest, most claustrophobic recesses of the mine. Imagine the scene. A child, armed with nothing more than a stone hammer and a fire-hardened antler pick, lying on their back in the oppressive darkness, chipping away at the rock face in a space where you could not even sit up. The air would have been thick with dust and the lingering smoke of animal fat lamps, the only source of light. How did they breathe? The ventilation challenges in such a deep, complex network of tunnels would be a puzzle for modern engineers. There are no obvious air shafts, no evidence of complex bellows systems. They must have relied on a subtle, intuitive understanding of air currents and tunnel geometry, creating a passive airflow system that somehow kept the deepest chambers from becoming toxic tombs. Then there is the problem of waste. For every handful of valuable copper ore, there were mountains of worthless rock. How did they remove it all? The logistics of hauling countless tons of rubble back through those tiny, twisting passages up to the surface day after day for centuries is a problem that defies easy solution. This was not a haphazard dig. It was a highly organized, long-term industrial operation run by a society we often picture as primitive. The Great Ore Mines reveal a prehistoric civilization with a sophisticated understanding of geology, subsurface engineering, and labor management that completely reshapes our view of the Copper Age. They were not just simple farmers, they were industrialists operating in the dark, their greatest achievement hidden deep within the earth. From the shadowy depths of a Copper Age mine, we emerge into a world where an entire civilization chose to live not just beneath a hill, but inside it. In the heart of Turkey's Cappadocia region, the earth opens up to reveal Derinkuyu, a subterranean metropolis that plunges 18 stories deep into the soft volcanic rock. This was not a simple cave or a temporary refuge. It was a fully functional, self-contained city, a labyrinthine world carved from the stone below, capable of sheltering up to 20,000 people for months at a time. The scale is almost incomprehensible. Imagine an entire community with all its needs existing entirely underground. Derinkuyu was equipped with everything necessary for long-term survival. There were living quarters, churches for worship, communal kitchens, stables for livestock, cellars for food storage, and even sophisticated wine presses. This was not a desperate hideout. It was a planned, permanent underground world. The engineering challenges this presented are staggering. How do you keep a city of 20,000 people from suffocating? The builders solved this with a breathtakingly clever ventilation system, a network of over 50 distinct shafts that reached from the deepest chambers all the way to the surface, providing a constant, fresh supply of air throughout the entire complex. How do you prevent a collapse? The architects demonstrated a profound understanding of structural integrity, using massive, load-bearing pillars of solid rock left in place during the excavation to support the immense weight above. And then there was the ever-present threat of invasion. Security was paramount. The entire city could be sealed off from the inside using enormous circular stone doors. These were not simple gates. Each one was a single, multi-ton disk of rock, perfectly balanced to roll across the entrance tunnels, effectively blocking them from any outside force. Moving one of these doors from its recess was a task that required several strong people, but once it was in place, it became an impenetrable barrier. The sheer logistics of planning and carving Derinkuyu speak of a society with incredible organization and a shared purpose. This was a collective project that would have spanned generations, requiring expert knowledge of geology, architecture, and urban planning long before such concepts had names. Who were these people, and what were they hiding from that drove them to create such an immense sanctuary deep within the earth? The city itself offers no written records, only the silent, echoing halls of its own magnificent, terrifying construction. A hidden society did not just build beneath the earth, they also stood thousands of stones in perfect lines across the landscape. In the quiet fields of Brittany, France, the Karnak stones create a spectacle of organized chaos. Over 3,000 individual megaliths stand in silent, soldierly rows, stretching for miles across the countryside. This is not a random collection of rocks. It is a grand, geometric pattern on a scale that is almost impossible to take in from the ground. The stones themselves vary in size, from manageable boulders to colossal pillars weighing many tons, all arranged with a deliberate, almost rhythmic spacing. The sheer manpower required for this project is staggering to consider. Every single one of these stones had to be quarried, transported, and then set upright into the earth by a people who left no written history to explain their actions. How did they coordinate the labor to align thousands of heavy stones over such a vast distance, and for what possible reason? The most compelling theories point to the sky. Some researchers believe the alignments functioned as a colossal astronomical calendar, with specific stones marking the solstice sunrises or the movements of the moon. Walking the lines, you can imagine ancient priests or astronomers using these granite markers to track the seasons, to predict celestial events that govern their planting and their rituals. Others argue this was a sacred pathway, a processional route for religious ceremonies that connected the world of the living with the world of the spirits. Yet, despite decades of study, no single theory holds all the answers. The true purpose is locked away, as enigmatic as the people who built it. This was not the work of a scattered tribe. It was the achievement of a unified, highly organized society with a single, powerful vision, a purpose so compelling that it drove them to transform their entire world into a permanent, stone-lined question for the ages. The silent, standing army of Karnak stones represents a mystery of arrangement on a grand scale, but half a world away, another civilization achieved a miracle of intricate creation on a miniature one. In the royal court of the Kingdom of Benin, metalworkers performed what can only be described as an act of artistic alchemy. They transformed humble beeswax and river clay into breathtaking bronze sculptures of such lifelike detail that they seemed to capture a breath in metal. This was the lost wax method, a process so complex and delicate that a single mistake at any stage meant total failure. An artisan would begin by sculpting a perfect model from beeswax, capturing every fine line of a leopard's fur, every subtle curve of a human face, and every bead in an elaborate necklace. This wax masterpiece was then enclosed in a thick shell of special clay, with vents and channels carefully engineered into the mold. The next step was the point of no return. The entire assembly was fired in a kiln, melting the wax completely and leaving behind a perfect, hollow negative space within the hardened clay, a ghost of the original sculpture. Then molten bronze, heated to a precise and fiercely guarded temperature, was poured into this empty cavity, flowing through the narrow channels to fill every microscopic detail. Once the metal cooled, the outer clay shell was broken away, revealing the raw bronze casting inside. But how did they achieve such consistent, flawless results? The specific recipe for the clay mixture was crucial. It had to be strong enough to withstand the heat, yet porous enough to allow gases to escape and prevent bubbles from forming. The firing temperature was a matter of life and death for the piece. A few degrees too hot or too cold, and the metal would not flow correctly, or the mold would crack. The composition of the bronze itself, an alloy of copper, tin, and sometimes lead, was a closely held secret that gave the finished pieces their unique golden brown hue and ideal fluidity for casting. Some of the most complex pieces, like the famous bronze plaques depicting court life, are not solid. They are masterpieces of interlocking elements, with raised figures standing clear of a textured background, all cast as a single, seamless piece. Modern foundries, with their precise digital thermostats and industrial equipment, can struggle to replicate the perfection of these ancient works. The knowledge was not written down, but passed from master to apprentice in a sacred, oral tradition, a chain that was tragically broken by the colonial disruption of the kingdom. The Benin bronzes are therefore more than just art. They are the solidified genius of a metallurgical tradition that reached a peak of sophistication, a lost recipe for perfection that we can only admire but never truly recreate. A city of mud should have melted back into the earth centuries ago. Yet on the arid northern coast of Peru, the ruins of Chan Chan stand defiant against the desert winds and the rare but devastating rain. This was the capital of the Chimu Empire, a sprawling metropolis built not from stone, but from adobe, simple bricks of sun-dried mud. In a land where a single downpour can turn the ground to slurry, the survival of these walls for over 600 years is a profound mystery. The secret lies not in the idea of mud bricks, but in the specific, lost recipe the Chimu people perfected. They did not just use any mud. They mixed the local clay with a precise combination of other materials, including crushed seashells, gravel, and a binding agent that some researchers believe was a special plant resin. This was not a haphazard recipe. It was a form of ancient chemical engineering. The resulting bricks were incredibly resistant to erosion. The shells and gravel acted like a microscopic skeleton, reinforcing the mud and preventing it from simply washing away. More impressively, the mixture gave the entire structure a remarkable flexibility. When the earth shook, as it so often does along the Pacific coast, the walls of Chan Chan were designed to sway and absorb the seismic energy, rather than crack and crumble like rigid stone might. Modern adobe, by contrast, is far more brittle and vulnerable. How did they know exactly which materials to combine and in what ratios? This knowledge was not written down. It was a living tradition passed from master builders to their apprentices, a tradition that was tragically severed when the Inca conquered the Chimu, and then again when the Spanish arrived. The result is that we are left with the evidence of their genius, these vast, intricate complexes of palaces and temples adorned with beautiful, fish-scale reliefs, all carved from a reinforced mud that has outlasted empires. We can analyze the bricks, but we cannot replicate the exact process or the specific local ingredients that gave them their supernatural resilience. Chan Chan is a monument to a different kind of power, not one of overwhelming force, but of an intimate, almost symbiotic understanding of the earth itself, a knowledge of how to build with the land in a way that made the land protect the creation. Nature itself can sculpt with a precision that rivals our greatest ancient wonders. On the wind-swept Cocoa Beach in New Zealand, the Moai boulders lie scattered like a giant's forgotten marbles. These are not the works of any human hand, but natural geological formations called concretions. Yet their appearance is so deliberately perfect it feels almost unnatural. Each boulder is a massive, near-perfect sphere, some over 6 feet across, cracked open in some places to reveal a stunning crystalline core of brown calcite that looks like ancient turtle shell. They formed not over centuries but over millions of years, growing layer by layer around a central nucleus deep within the surrounding mudstone cliffs. The process was one of immense patience, as mineral-rich waters slowly seeped through the mudstone, depositing crystals in a perfect, uniform pattern around that central seed. The true mystery is the consistency. How did this chemical process maintain such perfect symmetry, creating these gigantic, round balls instead of the lumpy, irregular shapes we normally associate with natural rock formations? The specific chemical soup, the exact pressure, the perfect rate of deposition, all combine to create these spherical masterpieces under conditions modern science cannot quite replicate in a lab. They grew in secret, hidden within the soft mudstone, until the sea finally eroded the cliffs away, unveiling them to the world. Their existence is a humbling reminder. The same forces of chemistry and time that built our planet also possess a hidden artistry, a slow-motion construction secret that created these natural monuments, echoing the perfect man-made spheres of Costa Rica and proving that some of the greatest builders of all were not people, but the patient, elemental laws of the earth itself. The slow, patient artistry of nature finds a strange parallel in a pillar of forged metal that has defied its own fundamental nature for over 1,600 years. Standing in the heart of Delhi is a testament to ancient metallurgical genius, the Iron Pillar. It rises 7 meters high, a single, seamless piece of wrought iron crafted during the Gupta dynasty around the year 400 AD. In a world where steel bridges and cars require constant maintenance and repainting to fight a relentless battle against rust, this ancient pillar has stood completely exposed to sun, rain, and wind for 16 centuries, yet it remains uncorrupted. Its surface is smooth, marked not by the red decay we expect, but by a dark, protective patina that has puzzled scientists for generations. Modern analysis has uncovered the pillar's secret, but not the method behind it. The iron is of a purity that is astonishing for its time, but the real magic is in a microscopically thin, invisible barrier. This is a layer of a compound called mesawite, a crystalline film of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen that acts as a perfect, self-renewing shield. It prevents moisture and oxygen from penetrating deeper into the metal, effectively putting rust into a permanent state of arrest. We can identify this protective layer, but we cannot replicate the specific, almost ritualistic forging process that created it. Was it the unique composition of the iron ore itself? Was it a specific, lost technique of hammering and cooling the hot metal that encouraged this perfect film to form? Or was it a happy, coincidental marriage between the pillar's precise alloy and the particular environmental conditions of Delhi, a recipe of air and time that we cannot reproduce in a laboratory? This is not a mystery of massive stones, but of microscopic structures. The pillar's resistance is a form of alchemy, a transformation of base metal into something nearly eternal. Modern science is desperately studying this ancient artifact, hoping to unlock its secret to create self-protecting steel for our bridges, ships, and buildings. But for now, the iron pillar stands silent, a rustless wonder in a rusty world, guarding the formula for its own immortality. From the rustless perfection of the iron pillar, we travel to the windswept highlands of Scotland, where ancient fortifications hold a secret written in fire. Scattered across the landscape are the haunting remains of vitrified forts, hilltop strongholds where the very stone ramparts have been transformed into glass. This is not a slow decay. It is a violent, instantaneous fusion where granite boulders have been melted and fused together into a solid, brittle mass. The process, known as vitrification, is a geological event locked in stone. To achieve this, the rock must be heated to a staggering temperature, well over 1,100 degrees Celsius. That is a heat so intense it rivals a modern industrial smelter. A simple bonfire, even a massive one, burns at barely half that temperature. A forest fire might reach 800 degrees. So what kind of inferno could possibly have turned these thick, stone walls into liquid glass? One theory suggests it was a terrifyingly effective form of ancient warfare. Perhaps attackers or the defenders themselves set a colossal, sustained fire against the timber-laced walls, a fire so ferocious and so carefully engineered that it literally melted the stone fortifications, either to destroy them utterly or to create a new, stronger, fused barrier in their place. But the logistics of this are mind-boggling. How would you maintain such an impossible temperature across an entire hill fort rampart in the open air without modern accelerants or bellows? It would require a perfect storm of fuel, airflow, and containment that seems almost impossible to achieve by accident. This leads to another, more chilling possibility. What if the vitrification was not an act of war, but one of ritual? Could these forts have been deliberately set ablaze in a massive, sacrificial pyre, a ceremonial burning on a scale we can scarcely imagine, a farewell to a fortress that transformed it into a permanent, glassy monument? The true method remains one of prehistory's most dramatic puzzles. These forts are not just ruins, they are the scorched scars of a single, cataclysmic night. A moment of unimaginable heat whose source has been cold for millennia, leaving behind only a silent, stony testament to a power over the elements that we still cannot explain. This submerged pathway off the coast of Bimini feels like a deliberate invitation into the unknown. Stretching across the seafloor, the Bimini Road is a formation of massive, rectangular limestone blocks, each one laid with an unnerving sense of order. They are arranged in a long, straight line that curves at a perfect right angle, creating the undeniable impression of a paved causeway or a collapsed wall. It is a structure that seems to beg for a purpose, a road that leads directly into one of humanity's greatest legends, Atlantis. The scientific consensus points toward a natural explanation, a phenomenon known as beachrock. Over time, the argument goes, the natural cementation of sand and shell can fracture along straight lines, creating the illusion of cut stone. But can nature consistently produce such uniform blocks and arrange them in a geometrically precise pathway? The sheer scale and linear perfection of the formation challenge this idea, suggesting the hand of a builder. If it is man-made, the implications are staggering. This would be the work of a sophisticated maritime culture, one capable of complex engineering in a shallow marine environment. Who were they, and what was this road for? Was it a pier for a long-vanished harbor, a ceremonial pathway for a sunken temple, or part of a larger, still-hidden complex now buried under sand and sea? The road sits in waters that were dry land at the end of the last ice age, meaning its construction could date back over 10,000 years, a time when our history books say no such civilization should have existed. This single, enigmatic structure lying just beneath the waves forces us to confront a haunting possibility. It is a ghost of a coastline, a remnant of a world lost to rising seas, holding its secret tight as the ocean currents flow endlessly over its ancient stones. While the vitrified forts of Scotland stand as monuments to fire, another ancient city mastered the element of water with a sophistication that seems to defy its own era. Mohenjo-Daro, a sprawling metropolis of the Indus Valley civilization, thrived over 4,000 years ago, yet its greatest marvel was not a temple or a palace, but something far more fundamental to urban life. The city was built upon a grid of wide, carefully planned streets, and beneath them lay a hidden, underground world of sanitation. This was not a simple ditch. It was a complex, city-wide network of brick-lined drains, all covered with sturdy stone slabs. These were not just for storm water. Individual homes had bathrooms with chutes that dropped waste directly from upper floors down into these covered channels below. The entire system was designed with a precise, consistent gradient, a subtle but crucial slope that allowed water and waste to flow effortlessly away from the residential areas and out of the city. Think about the engineering foresight this required. The builders had to map the entire city's topography in advance, calculating the exact fall of the land over long distances to ensure a constant, self-cleaning flow, all without modern surveying tools. They understood that if the slope was too steep, the water would rush away and leave solid waste behind to clog the pipes. If it was too shallow, the system would stagnate. They achieved a perfect balance. The materials were chosen with equal genius, using tightly fitted, waterproof bricks and a special mortar that could withstand constant moisture. This was not a luxury for the elite. It was a public health utility serving the entire city, a collective acknowledgement that urban wellness depended on managing waste. The knowledge behind this system, the precise ratios for gradients, the specific mortar recipes, and the overarching philosophy of public hygiene, formed a complete urban science that simply vanished when the Indus Valley civilization declined. Modern cities would not see such an integrated, effective sanitation system again for thousands of years. This lost science raises a profound question. How did a civilization from the dawn of urban life understand the principles of hydraulic engineering and public health so completely? And why did that essential knowledge have to be painfully rediscovered millennia later? The pristine sanitation of Mohenjo-Daro represents a science that was lost for millennia. But what happens when a single, solitary man in the modern era claims to have rediscovered the building secrets of the ancients? In the humid landscape of 20th century Florida, one man performed a feat that should have been impossible. Edward Leedskalnin, a frail Latvian immigrant standing just 5 feet tall and weighing barely 100 pounds, single-handedly built Coral Castle. This is not a collection of small garden ornaments. It is a complex of massive stone structures, featuring walls, tables, and towering obelisks all carved from oolite limestone, a type of coral rock. Some of these blocks weigh as much as 30 tons. Leedskalnin worked almost entirely alone and almost always under the cover of darkness, fiercely guarding his methods from prying eyes. He claimed he had uncovered the secrets that were used to construct the Great Pyramids of Egypt, insisting that the ancient builders understood the laws of weight and leverage in a way modern science had forgotten. Witnesses reported seeing him work, but their accounts only deepened the mystery. They said he would simply place his hands on the massive stones, sometimes humming, and the blocks would somehow move. He used no cranes, no trucks, no heavy machinery. His only tools appeared to be a collection of homemade tripods, chains, and old car parts scavenged from junkyards. How could one man quarry these multi-ton monoliths, transport them across the property, and then lift them into perfect, precise positions? The leading theory suggests he was a master of leverage and counterweight, using his simple tools to create a complex mechanical advantage. Yet, when engineers have tried to replicate his work using only the tools he left behind, they have failed. The blocks were simply too heavy for his apparent equipment to manage. This has fueled more speculative ideas, including wild claims about anti-gravity, magnetic currents, or a lost understanding of the Earth's energy grids. The truth is, the secret died with him. Coral Castle stands not as a relic from a distant age, but as a personal, modern-day monument to a single, stubborn man who seemingly defied physics itself, leaving behind a beautiful, silent puzzle for us to solve. Edward Leedskalnin's solitary struggle with stone feels like a modern echo of a much older, grander mystery, far earlier than the pyramids, before the first cities were even dreamed of. A group of people in southeastern Turkey began a project so ambitious it should not have been possible. This is Göbekli Tepe, the world's oldest known temple, a complex of stone circles built over 11,000 years ago. Its pillars are colossal, T-shaped monoliths of limestone, some weighing 16 tons, hauled from a nearby quarry and set into sockets carved from the living bedrock. They tower over the landscape, arranged in great rings, and every surface is a canvas. They are carved with a stunning menagerie of animals, foxes, scorpions, vultures, and boars, all rendered with a fluid, artistic skill that feels anything but primitive. The sheer scale of the labor is staggering, but the real mystery is the identity of the builders. These were not farmers. They were hunter-gatherers, people we have always pictured as nomadic, living hand to mouth, constantly on the move for their next meal. They had no pottery, no metal, and no permanent settlements, yet they somehow organized themselves to cut, move, and erect these stone giants, a project that would have required feeding and housing hundreds of workers for generations. Why would a society of foragers who needed to follow the herds to survive commit to such a back-breaking, permanent construction? What was so important that it compelled them to settle down and build, not for shelter, but for something else entirely? The carvings offer cryptic clues. Are these animals spirit guides, totems of powerful clans, or a celestial map pointing to constellations? The purpose of the complex is a profound puzzle. It forces us to rewrite our entire story of human civilization. We have always believed that agriculture came first, that the security of farming allowed for the surplus time and resources needed to build temples and develop complex society. Göbekli Tepe turns that idea on its head. Here, it seems the temple came first. The desire to build this sacred place, to gather for a common ritual purpose, may have been the very catalyst that forced people to settle, to learn how to farm grain to feed the builders, and to invent the society we know today. The pillars stand as a silent, monumental question. What knowledge, what shared belief was so powerful that it launched humanity on the path to the modern world, only to be deliberately buried and forgotten by its own creators millennia later? When we step back to view these 25 ancient enigmas together, a startling picture begins to form. It is no longer a collection of isolated curiosities, but a tapestry woven with recurring, impossible threads. Across continents and centuries, from the Andes to Cambodia, from the Egyptian desert to the Pacific Islands, we see the same baffling signature, a persistent, almost obsessive mastery over stone. How can cultures that never met, separated by oceans and millennia, all achieve the same impossible feat of cutting, moving, and setting megaliths that defy our own modern engineering? This cannot be mere coincidence. It suggests a terrifying possibility that this knowledge was not invented independently each time, but was perhaps part of a shared, forgotten foundation, a primordial technology that was lost, rediscovered, and lost again in a great cyclical rhythm of human history. But the pattern does not end with brute force. Look deeper, and you find an equally profound understanding of the invisible world, the world of materials and physics. The Romans did not just build with concrete, they created a living material that could heal its own wounds. The Indian metallurgists of the Gupta dynasty forged iron that defied its own nature, resisting rust for over 1,600 years. This points to a science that was not just theoretical but deeply empirical, a knowledge born from centuries of patient observation and experimentation with the very elements of the earth. This leads us to the most haunting question of all, the question of why. Why would a society of hunter-gatherers at Göbekli Tepe commit to a project so immense it would anchor them to one spot for generations? Why would the people of Easter Island pour their entire existence into carving and moving nearly 900 colossal statues? The answer must lie in something far greater than simple utility. These were not just construction projects, they were acts of faith, profound astronomical observatories, or desperate attempts to communicate with the divine. The driving force was a cultural or spiritual imperative so powerful it could command the labor of thousands for centuries. This collective view of our ancient past forces a humbling realization. Our modern story of human progress is a simple, straight line from primitive to advanced, but these silent, stone witnesses tell a different, more complex story. They suggest that knowledge is not a ladder we climb forever upward. It is a sea with tides that ebb and flow. Great waves of understanding can rise to dazzling heights, only to recede, leaving behind only scattered, incomprehensible relics on the shore. We stand today on what we believe is the pinnacle of technology, yet we are still trying to decipher the blueprints left by our own ancestors. Their secrets, etched in stone and metal, remind us that genius is not a modern invention, and that some of the most profound chapters of our story may have been written and then lost long, long ago. From the self-healing concrete of the Romans to the impossibly precise stonework of Puma Punku, these 25 construction secrets reveal a past brimming with an ingenuity that humbles our modern world. They are not merely ruins, they are permanent questions etched in stone, challenging our most basic assumptions about history and human capability. Each one stands as a testament to a different kind of genius, a deep, empirical understanding of materials, physics, and the world that we are still struggling to decipher with all our advanced technology. This collective evidence points to a startling truth. The greatest secret they hold may not be a single, lost technique for moving stones or mixing mortar. It is the profound realization that ancient civilizations possessed depths of knowledge, a sophisticated science of their own that we are only just beginning to glimpse. These mysteries remind us that history is not a closed book, but an ongoing excavation, a conversation with the past that is far from over. So what do you think? Which of these ancient secrets captivates you the most? And what other puzzles do you believe are still waiting to be unearthed? Share your thoughts and favorite mystery in the comments below, and subscribe for more journeys into the unknown.